Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Greedy About Books. I am Anjana, the Greedy Reader. So this time I am going to talk to you about one particular book because the last two episodes I realized I've been talking about 3 or 4 books at a time. And the book I have got for you today is The Stationery Shop of Tehran, written by Marjan Kamali. So this book is set in Tehran and in the United States of America. So before I go into the story, let me tell you 2 sentences about the political situation in Iran during that time. That is 1953 when the story is set there. So that is the year that the Prime Minister, a democratically elected Prime Minister Mossadegh, is overthrown by the army supported by the UK and the USA, who wanted the Shah on the throne or in power. So there is a lot of unrest in the streets. There's a lot of fighting between the pro-PM and the anti-PM supporters. So that is very crucial to understand the story of this book. So this is a love between Roya and Bahman, both of them 17 years old. And they meet at this little stationery shop which is run by Mr. Fakhri. So I will tell you a bit about the stationery shop, or rather what Roya feels about the stationery shop. I'll read a couple of lines from the book. So, quote, Roya loved running her fingers over tablets of smooth pages in that shop. She loved the boxes of pencils that smelled like lead and promised knowledge. She could spend an entire afternoon just looking at fountain pens and ink bottles, or flipping through books that spoke of poetry and love and loss. The shop was simply called the Stationery Shop. No fancy name to it. But it was a bookstore as much as a stationery store. As the political divisions deepened that winter, and hot-headed people engaged in debates and demonstrations all over the streets, it was the perfect retreat of quiet and learning. It was a sanctuary of calm and quiet, never overlit, never loud, unquote. So that is the stationery shop. So when I read this, I too wanted to be there. I love stationery shops. So anyway, Roya and Bahman meet in the stationery shop, which is right across the street from Roya's school. Roya loves reading and she goes there to look at books, and Bahman comes there for other purposes, but also to read the poetry of Rumi. He loves Rumi's poetry and he is obsessed with the causes that he is passionate about. So these two young people meet there and they fall in love and they're consumed by their love for each other. However, as in all love stories, things are not smooth. Although they meet each other's parents and they decide to get married, all that happens. But even then, Bahman's parents, especially his mother, does not like Roya. And again, Mr. Fakhri, the owner of the shop, has a story of his own, which is very, very crucial, for this story. So on the eve of a very, very momentous occasion that is going to happen in their lives, Bahman vanishes and Roya has no idea what has happened to him. So she waits for him and then she goes to the US to continue her studies. She and her sister go to the US to continue their studies, and she meets Walter. She decides to marry him, or rather they decide to marry, both of them. Walter is madly in love with her. But Roya still has Bahman in her heart. She pines for him. I mean, she's a mother, she's a wife, and she works there. And we see another picture also where immigrants, how they manage life in the US, and the working situation and what they have to go through. Through all these events that occur in Roya's life, she pines for Bahman. And in the end, she gets a letter from somebody who is in a nursing home. And she's in her 70s. So does she go to meet him? Does she meet Bahman, and does she get answers for her questions? These are things that you will get to know if you read this book, The Stationery Shop of Tehran. It's a beautiful read. It's a love story which has so many elements in it which make it very interesting. And there is a very interesting anecdote about how the author got an idea for this book. So Marjan Kamali was on a book tour for another book of hers, for an earlier book of hers, and she visited an assisted living facility in the US. And while she was reading out from her book, there was one gentleman, one elderly gentleman, who was speaking out. So she didn't know whether he was heckling her or whether he was trying to get her attention. She had no idea. Later, while they were having their food, he still kept coming and he kept saying things like, I have met the Prince of Spain and I have traveled with Charles de Gaulle. So she didn't know what to make of it, but still she got his name. And she was surprised that it was a Persian name. And 2 weeks later, when she met her father, she told him about this person, and her father said, oh, that person, he is a very decorated dignitary of ours. And she was shocked because her father said, yeah, that person has met the Prince of Spain and he has traveled with Charles de Gaulle and he has had a very eventful life. So Marjan Kamali was thinking about this rich tapestry that is that person's life, which is completely hidden by who he is today. And nobody knows where he is, that all this has happened in his life. So she started thinking about somebody in a nursing home who has had a very eventful life. And that is how she developed this story, which is a very interesting anecdote I thought I should share with you guys. So that is The Stationery Shop of Tehran. So if you're in the mood for a love story, which will tug at your heart, do go and check out The Stationery Shop of Tehran, written by Marjan Kamali. So wish you a wonderful week ahead. Get into the world of stories, read books, listen to audiobooks, and stories will be your escape from all the chaos that is happening in your lives. Till we meet again next week with the next book or books. Tata, bye-bye, take care.